Good morning, everybody. We have Mr. Kenyon and Ms. Bates in the house with us. But it looks like we have enough here online for a quorum. So let's go ahead and open the meeting of the Human Services Committee of Wednesday, August 11th at 9:02 a.m. Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Lewis,
Lewis here.
Allen,
Allen, present. Good morning.
Bates,
Bates here. Bates is in the house.
Davis,
Davis here.
Iqbal,
Iqbal present.
Kenyon,
Kenyon is also in the house.
Burog, Shepro, Mr. Sturgis.
Perfect.
Good call.
Call this to order. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 14th, 2021? Mr. Kenyon first, Ms. Bates second. Any comments? Online?
All good.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
No opposition?
We don't have to-
No, I think we need to do it over. Oh, we do. I was gonna say, voice vote works now?
I was under the assumption that we were corrected a few months ago saying that the minutes could be approved with an aye or a nay. But I'm happy to
Okay
go
with
roll
me.
call if you'd be more comfortable. Just call roll.
Allen, Allen,
Allen, aye.
Bates,
Bates, aye.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes. But actually, that was Mr. Shepro who said we could do it by voice. And so I think going
It
forward,
would be
we could be.
unanimous consent.
Yes, unanimous consent.
Thank you, Anita.
it passes.
Passes. Thank you so much. Do we have any public comment online? I don't believe so. Okay, monthly financial reports are attached. I don't believe we have anybody here. Does anybody have any questions on those? Veterans Assistance Commission, Jake is out on vacation or finishing his basement or something. And
Something.
who do we have with us?
My name is Nate Johnson with the Kane County Veterans. I'm the Assistant Superintendent, as well as I'm on the Executive Board for the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers.
Super. Nate, how long have you been with the county?
I've been with the county for about 6 years.
Okay, dynamite.
I've
We,
never seen you before.
doesn't let anybody up out of the dungeon. It's just him. So Nate, go ahead with your report.
All right. So the average days to completion on a VAC claim is 124 days. The average Illinois is 123 days. We are closing in on that number. Something to take note of. The National Personnel Records Center is in a high transmission area for records, and they're the custodian of all the federal records. So these days may start trending up going forward as they have a skeleton crew. The average
These are the folks that are like 8 months behind as it is.
8 months to 12 months behind right now, and they just announced 2 or 3 days ago that they're going back to a skeleton crew and only doing emergency requests at this
So
point.
this is going to go from worse to even more worse.
Yes, but we do have workarounds within our office that we can potentially get those records without having to utilize their service.
Great job. Thank you.
The average Illinois pension currently is 58.9 days. Our office is currently sitting at 46.5 days, about 8 days quicker. Currently, we have 157 claims, disability and pension claims pending. The state of Illinois has 13,507. In the month of June, we had 28 compensation claims, 3 pension claims, 3 dependent claims, 2 healthcare applications, and 5 appeals, with 186 forms completed. The month of June saw $480,000 come in through compensation benefits with 0 expenditures in financial assistance. A point of emphasis we want to make this month is that the Veterans Assistance Commission of Kane County is very well connected within the state and over throughout the country. We had a veteran who is also part of our commission. He's actually our board president, come down with a severe illness while he was traveling. And we got the call at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon that this veteran needed to be transported from Bloomington, Indiana to Hines VA. And within a week, we were able to facilitate that transportation at no cost to the veteran and all of the financial requirements came through the VA. So being well connected within the state and federally helped us get this veteran moved from Bloomington, Indiana, which is about 6 hours away, to Hines VA, where he's now going to be going through an extensive rehab for about 3 to 4 months.
Nate, we made the comment yesterday at the county board meeting that we live in a time post-COVID where everybody is still in their individual silos. I work from home. That's not my job. This is what I do. You can't just yell over the cubicle anymore and say, hey, give me a hand. Yet somehow at the county level, our staff and our teams seem to be able to work beyond that. And this is just another great example of being connected and how relationships matter still, and it's not all technology. And so we thank you very much.
Sir, thanks.
Perfect.
Amen, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Deb. Any comments, questions for Nate? Going once, going twice. Nate, thank you so much. Don't feel like you need to stick around if you've got stuff to do.
Perfect,
Jake
thanks.
usually leaves at this point as well.
Sounds good, thanks.
Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming.
6 years under the radar. Well done.
6 years. We don't know who he is. There we go. Thanks, Nate. Jamie, we have a full plate down at the bottom, so if we can smoke through some of these, that would be great.
Yep, let's try to roll through them fast. Blue Cross Blue Shield invoice, pretty standard stuff this month. It's actually on the lower end, probably because we're hitting our stop loss on a few of our larger claims, that being June, the last month of our year. Does anyone have any questions on it? Enrollees, fairly standard, nothing exceptional on that report either. Can kind of move along. Applicants, we've had some pretty good numbers of applicants. I think it was low for a while. I think there were some unemployment issues going on that we weren't getting a lot of applicants, but that seems to have rebounded nicely, and we have some good numbers in there. Same thing, new hires. It's a lot of replacement hiring among the sheriff's office and some of the offices, but really nothing exceptional on these reports unless there are any questions. We'll move on to workers' comp. Workers' comp continuing to trend in the direction we like to go. Claims are a little lower as we progress through the year, so that's looking good. Are there any questions on the workers' comp reports? Okay.
We, if I can just step in for a second, we did have a meeting this past month between Rich and between the general liability group, the workers' compensation group, our outside consultant, Mike Baker's team, to introduce them to Madam Chair and make sure that Jamie has a face that goes with the name. And we did that at lunch at one of the local establishments. And it's amazing what you can get done face to face over a cheeseburger and a soda in an hour. That would normally take days worth of emailing back and forth. And I do believe you lose inflection and intent in an email that sitting face to face, we can actually transcend some of that stuff pretty quickly. So I thought, Jamie, unless you feel differently, I thought that lunch was outstanding.
It was a great opportunity, with Rich and, some of the people that I'm communicating with on a regular basis. It was the first time I was able to meet them in person since we've been doing so much remotely and talk to them on the phone and email them. So it was a really good opportunity to be able to meet them and hash some things out right there in person. So I agree, it was excellent.
And just so, and I know we're off topic just a bit, but one of the challenges that we have coming up, and this is no fault of ours, but every now and again, an insurance carrier will pull from a market, meaning they've hit their saturation level for their risk tolerance, meaning they've had several large losses, whatever the case may be, that carrier may say, we no longer want to participate in the market. Our secondary insurer, our reinsurer for our general liability has made that move. They notified Rich's team that we are pursuing a different vendor. Remember, we're the 47 out of 50 carriers. Were not interested in insuring us just a few short years ago. So this is of concern for us, but we are well ahead of it and on top of it. And that single item was of concern enough to pull everybody together for a lunch and make sure that everybody understood the ramifications of that and the extraordinary efforts that we're putting forth to try and make sure that that's bridged. Jamie and Fair, is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to step on your toes there.
No problem. You're good. The next report is the training compliance report for the sexual harassment training. You likely saw I sent out an email to everyone. If you haven't completed it, you need to by the end of the month. That did get a lot of people moving. And we actually, if you look at the report, it's, I think, about 15% higher than it was last month. So it's gotten
Yeah.
kind of static. So it's gotten people moving again. And we gave people until the end of August to get it completed. If they don't, then we will be sending the list of uncompleted individuals to the department heads so that they can give another nudge to them. And I'm hoping to have everyone wrapped up by the end of September.
So if I haven't done mine, do you get my name on your list?
Probably,
There
you'll
we go.
probably, if there's board members on it, they'll probably get an email from me. But hopefully you guys will all be done.
Cliff, I heard you were getting publicly called out at the next full board meeting.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yes. I got two of the emails while I was on vacation saying, please get this done. I was like, I'm on it. I'm on it.
That ends the regular monthly reports.
Any question for Jamie at all? Online? Jamie, as usual, thank you. And I'm sorry for pushing the highlight on this, but I wanted to get some of the other stuff. Compliance training report, you've already done that, correct?
Yes.
Old business, scope of possible compensation study. While you're at the podium, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Last month in the meeting, I did speak briefly about just an idea we had looking at a compensation analysis, and the committee had requested I come back with a little more detail. So I do have a detailed analysis that I wrote up that if the committee would like, I can email out to everyone immediately following the meeting. I'm going to run through it a little bit. It discusses the scope. So it covers a multi-phase project, which actually has 5 total phases. Who would be involved in the potential cost and length of time for each phase. Just in brief, phase 1 is an approximately 3 to 6 months phase, which is length of time is dependent a little bit on department head cooperation and abilities. And there's no cost beyond regular county staff time. So it'll be county staff time. The objectives is to get a detailed organizational chart from each department that includes all position and their reporting relationships. Create an inventory of all positions with compensation, including benefits associated. And then make sure we have a current job description for every job that we have a county employee doing. And then we need to make sure that all the job descriptions meet best practice and are fairly consistent in their format. So this is heavily time for the Human Resources Department and then the individual departments to maintain that. Once that's complete, a report would be made to the Human Services Committee to include that inventory of jobs in those organizational charts. Then if the committee would like, they can continue, they can move on to the next phase, or they can request more preparation if they feel that's needed. The next phase would be to grade the jobs, and we would use a consultant for this. It would take approximately 3 to 6 months, and I believe approximately $15,000 in consultant fees. I did speak with a consultant in doing my research on this project. His name is Brad Townsend, and I believe the county has worked with him before. He's done some compensation work for building management recently. So he's a financial analyst who does this type of work. So he kind of helps me with this layout. Currently, DuPage County uses the HAY system, which is a system for pointing jobs and making a market analysis as for the jobs. And I would recommend we'd use that system or a similar system. The end of that, the goal of that is to use the inventory and job descriptions to point all the jobs and perform analysis using the organizational charts and ensure compliance with wage and hour regulations and use the job grading in the years to come. So once the job grades have been established, then those grades can be used years to come to do market analysis in a much more cost-effective way once the system is established. And then the next phase is to actually do the market comparison. And again, we would continue to use a contractor. These phases could be bid separately or they could be bid as a whole. But I estimate another $5,000 to $10,000 in consulting services and HR time to use data from neighboring counties and general market to determine the proper range for each job based on the job description and the organizational chart. And then early cost projections would be generated for the committee's review. If we moved on to the phase 4, which could probably run concurrent with phase 3, this is a human resources project to look at a compensation policy. It's just a good best practice to have a compensation policy where the board indicates what their intention is, which would be something along the lines of you want your compensation to attract and retain qualified individuals balanced with responsible use of county tax dollars. The compensation plan would include guidelines and protocol about how new positions are added, how raises are done, the job ranges and evaluation process for these types of positions. I expect that would take 3 to 6 months and there wouldn't be a cost besides staff time. So that would be a human resources project with the committee working on developing a policy. The final phase is implementation planning. This is where you look at a multi-year process to try to get positions at or near market value. That includes each department working with budget, working with their committees. So that would be a larger project, multi-year project to work any adjustments into county budget effectively over the course of several years.
Perfect. Couple of comments, if I might, and a couple of questions. So, and I want to make, Mr. Kaios just went and put the windows up on my car as it got really gray outside. And Chris, thank you so much for doing that. You are a wonderful person. Mavis, are you doing your windows as well?
Turn on the lights.
There you go. Each year we go through a budget process here at the county. And each year we grapple with trying to find the correct mix between the amount of available funds and the needs of the staff. And when I say staff, we're talking the overarching staff from the judicial system, top to bottom, to the sheriff's office, top to bottom. And when we go through all that each year, we really scramble and we really do the best we can to hold the line on taxes, but make sure that we're attracting the best and the brightest that we can for the community. At some point in time, we're going to reach a level where the two ends can't meet any longer. And when we get to that level, I don't personally believe that the answer is to just raise taxes to do that. The correct way to do this, in my opinion, is to do the cost analysis study to say, what is it that we expect from each department? What kind of personnel and staff do we have trying to achieve the goals of that department? How do we compensate those individuals as they relate to other municipalities, other counties, into the private sector, and then come back and evaluate funds do we have? It is my understanding that several years ago, we adopted the philosophy of freezing on hiring, that we were going to hope that attrition was the way for us to pare down some of our departments. But I don't think we ever took the time to identify what it is that each department is supposed to be doing. And so similar to 2 years ago, when we tried to implement the electronic benefits platform, that was a heavy lift. That was a huge lift for us. I believe that this project is equally going to be that of that magnitude and scope. that we're trying to embrace this with open arms. And that this isn't something that's going to happen overnight, nor should it be. This shouldn't be something that we run from. This should be something that we embrace, that keeps us on target. And we might find areas that we're deficient on. We might find areas that we're bloated in. And we're just trying to rebalance that. Am I fair in that statement, Jamie?
Yes, very much. I think some of the key points in this, and the consultant agreed when we talked about it, we're looking at a 9 to 12-month research project costing $25,000 to $30,000 total in costs, where we really get that data to make solid decisions. Some of the benefits of this plan is that it does happen in phases. So phase one, I think, is that internal research where you get organizational charts and you can really look at the function of the departments and make sure that, you know, that if there is excess, that it can be identified. So I think you really get that good opportunity, that data with those organizational charts to see how the departments are laid out and where the staff is and where those shortfalls are. I think also you have an opportunity to make data-driven decisions on compensation if you have that market comparison. I think you'll find that some departments have done a better job at staying market competitive than other departments. So there may be some departments that have more need to bring salaries into range than others. And there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for this data to be useful to the department heads to look at their salaries.
Not just the department heads, but ultimately
And the
our
board.
research here and our study here is going to go to the board. And it's a whole lot easier for me to look at my brethren's, here and say, here's the data. What do you want to do? Ultimately, we might need to raise taxes. On the other hand, maybe we're doing just fine and we don't need, but I want to base that on data, not based on conjecture. And I believe this is the path to get us here. So a couple of quick questions, Jamie. When was the last time a study like this was done here at the county?
1994.
1994. How long do you really think this whole thing is going to take start to finish?
The research project, I would hope it would
Start to
be
finish
done
recommendations to the
start to
board for
finish.
budgetary purposes.
For budgetary purposes. I would like to have it done by budget time next year.
Next year,
Mhm.
okay? And so you've heard me say multiple times recently that I would like to know what the cost is of the elephant that we're going to eat one bite at a time. What's the arching cost of this as compared to, it's $10,000 for this part and $45,000 for that? What's the total cost of this going to be?
I believe it will be in the area of $25,000 to $30,000 over
Okay.
the course of the year.
Okay, and just so I am clear and that I'm communicating to our committee, yesterday we passed in the consent agenda the ability to hire a replacement employee in human services. That employee is replacing somebody that left
Yes, Sarah Laporte left in May.
and has nothing to do with this process whatsoever.
Correct. It's just a replacement hire of a position that's existed for quite some time.
Perfect. Okay. Any questions that anybody has on this? Again, I'm hoping to see a scope and a business model from Jamie that we can provide to everybody, including Madam Chair's office, including the Finance Committee, to say, this is where we're going. If somebody would like to add to or detract from, speak now, because we're going to be going out to try and find those consultants almost immediately. Am I fair with that?
Yes.
Okay. Mavis.
Davis for the question.
Bates, please.
Bates first, and then we'll come to Davis.
How is this going to affect the morale of the employees? Are they going to be worried about layoffs at the end, or is this
Interesting
spelled
question.
out a
Interesting
different way?
question.
This would not result in layoffs. We haven't done that and we're not going to. So this would simply be, and we're not going to reduce anyone's salary either by any means. This is just a matter of setting an established range. If an employee is above range, the best practice associated with that is to give them annual raises in the form of a lump sum rather than an increase in salary that just prevents the problem from getting bigger, but still does address the longevity of the employees. So that would be something that would be determined in the compensation policy. The board would actually be able to decide how they want to handle those. If they would like to continue giving raises to people above range, certainly can set that policy. However, best practice in the industry is to give raises in the form of a lump sum so that the salary remains the same.
But Mavis, are you talking about in terms of the hierarchy and the study that identifies the flow chart and org chart? You're speaking in terms of that. What if we should determine that an employee is not needed? I don't see that as.
We would never proceed in the direction of layoffs. That would be part of how you handle attrition. So if you identify a place where you have 4 people filling a role that maybe could be done by 3, unless there was attrition in that department, there wouldn't be any change until you would have someone leave on their own. So any issues like that, but it gives the department heads the information that when they do have attrition, they know how to deal with it.
And this is a scary topic, Mavis, because I mean, I can say that in my businesses, unfortunately, there are technologies that make some positions obsolete, and those technologies weren't available just a few short years ago. And we get that, but we don't ever want this to be perceived as a threat. And this is just a rebalancing.
Okay, because from your comments, I was thinking layoffs. So,
Yeah, and I apologize if that was not, so I'm clear, that was not my
so
intent
if
at
I'm
all.
thinking that, then
I agree.
other
Thank
people, staff might. I have another question.
Super. Will you wait, Davis, can she ask a second question?
Davis, next.
Yes, of course, ladies.
There you
first.
go.
So my expectation, and I'm trying to align my expectations with everybody else's, is that we're going to find out that our salaries are too low and that we're going to have to, then what? Do we give everybody super big raises? Do we bite that bullet and say, geez, we should be paying you 25% more for the.
Oh, this is, Mavis, let me.
So when we get the data, then what?
Yeah, Liz, I use this phrase often in my life. Don't make it a problem till it's a problem. Let's wait until that data comes in and then we'll look at ways to solve that rather than put something out there right now.
And my saying is failure to anticipate future demands on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part.
I understand that. There's
Okay.
no emergency right now.
But
so.
to let you know what the intention is, I do believe you're right. I believe you will at least have some positions that are well below market rate. One of the reasons doing this and getting started, because you do have to start somewhere, doing this and getting started is because we are finding a struggle to hire qualified people
Mhm.
in multiple positions. I've heard this from many department heads, and is you do need to start somewhere. I would suspect you would have a multi-year process to try to get positions by looking first at your positions that are the farthest below market value and maybe getting them 15% closer to market value. So taking a small piece there with just your ones that are the farthest out of range. And then in the next year, maybe moving up to getting people to within, another certain percentage. So you would do that slowly over the course of multiple years as budget allows.
Perfect. Okay.
Is that okay, Mavis? Okay. And again, thank you, because I don't ever want my vibrato to come across the wrong way. So call it out and make sure that my intent is, and I thank you so much. Mark?
So Mavis, if an employee asks something like that after the data comes out, you give them the parent answer, which is, we'll see. So here's another twist to the whole thing. It's been since 1994, Jamie, that this was done.
Yes, that's correct.
With upcoming census data and redistricting and all the issues that go with that. When's the last time, if ever, that a data-driven analysis was done for the county board position?
I don't have the answer to that, but I can certainly look into it for you.
And perhaps we should ask whether or not that should be something that would be, included in this for everyone's benefit to think about.
Absolutely. I can look at all of the elected official positions if that's what the board would like.
Yeah. Mark, thank you. Appreciate the comment.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Louis, please.
Hi, Louis. It
How you doing?
was good to see you yesterday.
Good to see you too. You were looking really exceptionally well, but not as good as Mike Kenyon on his birthday.
I know that. Did you see that?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Anyway, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in on this, especially to Mavis. Not having done a complete study since 1994 is really like kind of unacceptable because the world has changed so much. So I think it's definitely something that has to be done. And I would also hope that when we do start on this, that we would make sure that all of our employees know why we're doing this, that, you know, that we would make it very clear to our employees, even in a letter saying, you know, we haven't done a study on our jobs since 1994. We want to make sure that our skill levels are as such. This could lead for better training for our people, bringing them up to things where they should be. It's not about eliminating people. It's about, you know, making sure that we have the right jobs in place,
What a great
are doing
idea.
the right things and the right skill set.
Yeah, what a great idea.
Good idea, Anita.
Anita, nicely done.
Thank you,
That's a
sir.
great idea.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Mr.
Jamie,
Chairman, Alan?
Hang on, Deb. Jamie, having a
Sure.
warm fuzzy out there as we go into this might really calm some nerves if that,
Yes, and as, you know, we heard some may look at this and think that it might be a potential for layoffs. So I think a memo to start off would be a great idea to send out to all employees, let them know what we're doing, why, that this will not result in any layoffs or salary reductions, that this is simply to make sure that we are paying people a market appropriate rate and that compensation packages are competitive. As far as anyone, I think Ms. Bates brought up that, you know, they may see this and go, oh, I'm underpaid, I should leave. I think you'd be hard pressed to find an employee here that's underpaid that doesn't already know that.
and again, Jamie, this is much more to me, and I don't want to lose track of this. This is much more to me than just a compensation study. It is a needs analysis to say, you know, and I hate terms like SWATs and stuff like that, but this really allows us to look at each department and say, what are the goals? Where are we at? What do we need? You know, are we achieving those? If not, how come? You know, why are we still doing that if that's been, you know, taken care of by technologies? Yeah, you know, and go from there. So,
Yes, I think it's a great opportunity to provide some much needed data to the board and the department heads.
okay. So, and I was just passed a note that the last time elected official salaries were reviewed was 2008. And that wouldn't, I understand that, and I will let any one of my other 23 commissioners introduce that. I am not interested personally in introducing that, but that's just me. Okay, Jamie, thank you so much for that. Oh, I'm sorry, Deb, did you have a question?
Well, thanks for remembering. It's not just the board members, it's the electeds generally. We have seen some data over the years, and our people are almost always at best at the middle and usually at the low end of what other counties around us are paying the recorder, the sheriff, the circuit clerk, et cetera. So it's worth taking a look at this for them. I wanted to say that people have been talking about this kind of study since I first came here 19 years ago. And the reaction was always to throw your hands up in the air and say, well, we can't possibly pay everybody what they're worth, so let's not even try. So Jamie and Cliff, thanks for coming up with a plan here. This is the multi-phases and the laying out of how to collect the data and what the data is for. That's just excellent. This is something we can wrap our arms around, and thank you for doing it. Let's take it on.
Appreciate that. And Deb, I don't want to be naive here, and because I see Commissioner Molina on the call with us. I mean, it has been the state's attorney's office, in my opinion, that has reached out time and time again, saying, we just don't have the funding to do what we need to do. And we are, you know, our turnover is too great. And, you know, if I'm looking at this with any preconceived notion, it's the, you know, it's those departments that I look and say, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. They've been squeaking for so long that if we continue to ignore it, I'm really afraid that bad things will begin to happen. And so it's really important to get this up on the table and get this going. So,
Mr. Chairman?
wait, Bates, hang on one second. Iqbal, any questions? Kenyon, any questions?
No.
Okay, Mavis, we'll come back to you before moving on.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay, so,
Wrapped in.
okay. I'm ready
Seatbelts
to-
on.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So I am interested in, I wanted to say that a squeaky wheel only squeaks so long before it falls off.
Yep, yep.
So-
It's, and they've been squeaking, so we need to listen.
Okay, so this idea of the electeds, I feel you shying away from this, if that's okay to use that word. I think that's what I heard you say, but I'm not sure why. With this fantastic study being done, maybe we should put the electeds into the ball of wax.
By elected, are you speaking the elected county positions or the county board positions?
All of the above.
Okay,
Mark, will you back me up on that? Mark Davos, is that your thinking? Will anybody back me up on that?
yeah.
So,
Mr. Kenyon?
The last time we did it, we had a commission composed of maybe 2 people from here and business leaders and people in industry. And they just looked at salaries, like, do we pay our county board chairman enough?
Okay,
When we did it last time, we used to get mileage. We did away from mileage, and there was a time when we had per diem, people got paid for each meeting. We did away with that, so.
understand. And Chris, I'm going to come to you, but my personal feeling is that I would like to separate these into 2. If that's the desire, I would like that to be separate from what we're doing for budgetary purposes. And not that it's not important, not that it's not, I just don't believe it's appropriate to try. We're going to put too many things in one jar and we're not going to get the results we're looking for.
okay, I stand on my newbie status to take back that suggestion.
No. So, Chris?
That was my thought as well, to separate the
Yep.
two. That, and whoever thought that per diem wasn't a good thing?
I-
Mileage. Says the guy who lives the farthest.
John?
Expanding on Mike's comments, I think that the salaries of elected officials are a sensitive enough issue with the public that there ought to be a broader group of people analyzing that so that it doesn't just simply appear to be a board initiative. We need,
Obtaining the data is one thing, analyzing it, I think, is a
well,
total.
not only analyzing it, but the political backdrop of how it's done and how you're going to sell this to the public. Should there be an announcement that the salaries should be raised?
Karine has just stepped in, and which usually means I've just stepped on a landmine, so.
I was sending down cryptic messages as I was listening upstairs. Just as an update, we are currently reviewing the salaries of elected officials. That was requested some time ago by several of our board members. And I have reached out to former mayor of St. Charles, Sue Klinkhammer, to talk to her. I thought she'd be a good person to start with the committee. We're gathering all the data right now. Jamie is putting together an analysis for me of comparable salaries throughout the related counties, including benefits as well as base salaries. And I know that our auditor already put together a similar report. So I'll get that from her and we'll do a comparison between the auditor's report and what Jamie's team has put together. I'll send that to Mrs. Klinkhammer, and then we'll starting to put together, has been done 2008 was the last salary review, and that was done by members of the community, leaders of the community, and that then is recommended and then brought forward to this committee for your review, and then it'll be decided upon by the board.
Okay.
So we're very much in the process of that. It's
So separate and distinct
nothing to do with the board right now.
from this other report. And Jamie, if we can find a better name than compensation study, because it's so much more than that.
Wage?
Yeah, we'll find a better moniker for that, but let's keep that separate from that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And there was, as a reminder, and seated board members from the previous administration may remember that in 2017, there was a disparity study that clearly indicated, and we can get a copy of that for your review so you can remember it. And for other board members, it's available online on our website as well, that it clearly indicated that Kane County's salaries were low. I don't know how low, but also that there was not enough staff to really do appropriate services. And you had cut services to the bone because of fiscal responsibility. So that's where we stood at 2017. Since that time, there has been a hiring freeze, as we know. And basically, besides 2% pay raise, it hasn't caught up with the cost of inflation. We had low inflation. Now, inflation has increased, as we are aware of. I think it's at 4.1% right now. So I think that this study is warranted and needed and necessary just to get an idea of where we stand with other counties.
Agreed. So
Thank you.
Jamie, I think I'm not hearing anything that would dissuade us in the directions that we're moving in and going forward. But I would ask you to have a formal report, timeline, dollar figures, triggers, watershed moments of what we're looking at. And then I don't know if, as an interim department head, do you have spending authority, or do you have to come back to committee if you have a $10,000 consultant that you want to bring on to exercise something? Do you have to come back to us for that?
I believe we need a resolution for a budget adjustment since this is not currently budgeted. So I would do a resolution for a budget adjustment for the consulting fees.
So if the earliest you can get that is our next meeting, which is 30 days from now, do you have the ability to put that together and get it back to us by then?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, if there's no other questions on that, old
Mr.
business.
Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I appreciate this discussion. It is good to separate the elected versus the non-elected.
This is Dr.
Please.
Iqbal. For the
Yes.
record. Yes.
Yeah, to answer, Madam Chair's question, analysis, I think we are reinventing the wheel. Last year, as you recall, Mr. Chairman, I presented an analysis of different counties, the board members, compensation, and the number of board members. It was all in one done. It was done together. So the numbers and the compensation go hand in hand. You cannot separate both. And I will be glad to send a copy over to Madam Chair so she doesn't have to reinvent the wheel, if she likes it.
That would be most welcomed. Did your study, if I may, Mr. Iqbal, did your study include all other elected officials?
Not all elected, only the board members.
Well, that would be most helpful.
I think, if I may, there are elected coroner, sheriff, if we could moniker county-wides versus board, I think that would facilitate the conversation. Because I think what Mo was talking about are board positions, not countywide positions, if I remember correctly from the paperwork. Mo, is that
Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
And the study that I have asked for includes all countywide and board members,
Okay,
because all need a salary review.
okay, happy. Mo, thank you for chiming in. And I did ask for you, you may have stepped away. I asked for comments right beforehand, so.
Yeah, no, my microphone was off.
Got it. You look very handsome there, though, by the way. I like Blair put you up on screen, so.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, if we can move on to old business, the ethics, Madam Chair, do you have a few minutes to stay? Okay. The ethics ordinance, another heavy lift that the committee will be taking on is the modifying some of our ethic ordinance guidelines. Vincent was nice enough to email me last night a page. I did not disseminate this, but my instructions to Vince were very simple. we need to understand the scope that we're trying to achieve before we put things in action. And if you can define that and we're in agreement, then let's move forward. So Blair, if I sent you that email, can you put that up on screen by chance? I'm sorry to catch you off guard. Okay, Vince, hold that. We're going to go to another item real quick. Under old business that's not on the agenda, but I'm going to move it to the plate. We had discussed several times, and Michelle Gums and Christine from HR have put together a wonderful opportunity for a picnic appreciation acknowledgement going on for next week. I believe that we have moved into a situation with the COVID variants that pulling together 400 or 500 of our employees for a picnic altogether is possibly not the smartest move, and the timing may be off on that. But that's not my decision. That's a committee decision. Madam Chair and I have discussed it. Jamie and I have discussed it. And the discussions have been to postpone this, not indefinitely, but just postpone it. And I wanted to bring that to this committee before we made that announcement. So Jamie, do you have anything to add to this, or Madam Chair?
I do agree. It needs to be postponed until conditions are suitable for a large in-person gathering. At the same time, we're sending out, information about the variants, the need to mask and things like that. I just don't believe it would be a consistent message to our employees to then also have a party. So I think it's best if we postpone it until conditions improve.
Not a popular decision, but I'm in agreement. Madam Chair?
And I would concur with that decision. I think it's wise. But I did talk to Mr. Surges, and we would like to recognize the employees who worked here, I believe, for 20 years. And Cliff is going to be working with Jamie to be able to think about what that could possibly be. So some kind of recognition that shows a thank you. No, yes, appropriate.
And Jamie, that would be last year's and this year's
And
recipients.
what we were thinking, although last year's employees were recognized in a non-in-person way, we were going to include them since nothing in person was done as had been done before, but they were sent acknowledgement, certificate, and all of those things last year. So if we're going to do a non-in-person recognition, they have already been recognized in that way, last year's employees. So I think we would only need to look probably at this year's employees.
Jamie, would it be hypocritical if we said, we're going to cancel the 400-person event, but for you 20 people, feel free to come to the boardroom? If they came to the board and they were masked, would anybody have a problem doing that? And again, I'm just asking, as Madam Chair cringes from ear to ear. No.
I think anything you could plan to do socially distanced would be acceptable. So if you plan something that could be done in a way such that it was socially distanced, I think it would still be okay.
Maybe we can talk further. Maybe we can do it outside if they'd like to bring their family.
Yeah, okay. So Ms. Bates?
Pretty sure cramming them into the boardroom won't social distance them enough.
Okay, yeah, so we hear it loud and clear. And is there anybody who has a problem with postponing the picnic? Going once?
No problem.
Okay, Jamie, we have direction on that. Let's just because of the short time frame, let's get that announcement out immediately in the most tactful, COVID appropriate language that you can craft. That would be great.
Yes, we will do that.
Okay, thank you.
I think Jamie's always tactful.
She is fabulous, yes. Okay, Vince, why don't you come back up? On screen, if you will, is an email that Vince just sent to me last night. And Vincent, if you would like to just walk us through your interpretation of where we think we need to go with the scope of the ethics ordinance. And Mo, you asked us to look into this almost 18 months ago. We're just getting to it now. Your patience and professionalism has been nothing but exemplary, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Vincent Coyle, Assistant State's Attorney, and that is correct. I believe the ethics ordinance hasn't been updated for quite some time. So there are a few things that I've outlined for the general scope to look at. Currently, the ethics ordinance does have a gift ban. And with the gift ban comes exceptions, which the Illinois state statute outlines those specific exceptions. However, the current ethics ordinance has more exceptions than the statute allows for. So a review would need to be done to determine if any of those restrictions that are, exceptions that are currently in the ethics ordinance are considered to be more.
Vince, could we categorize that one as housekeeping? Would that be, you're just
Sure.
trying to blend ours with what's
Yeah.
there as a comparison? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, that would be a.
Not reinventing a wheel here. We're doing housekeeping and maintenance.
Correct.
Okay.
And then, so yeah, that one would definitely be a housekeeping to see if, how that complies with the current Illinois state statute, as well as the second one, the political contributions. There is a statute on point in the election code. And just to review for housekeeping to make sure that the statute is still in compliance or the ethics ordinance is compliant with the state statute that's currently on the books.
Vince, let me pause you for one more second. And for this committee, Mr. Davist, if you'll listen up for a moment. We have always struggled in this committee trying to put together an omnibus document that comes out. I would ask members of the committee to try and find in their minds a way to say, can we strip some of these individual house cleaning items up and approve them rather than package it into this giant, Mark, am I saying that correctly?
Yes, when we undertook this originally, it seemed very overwhelming at first because it was always like, oh, we have to do this whole thing. And we were able to make progress by by breaking it down, cherry picking the easiest ones and getting those written down and agreed upon so that we actually had a document. We felt like we were started, we were out of the gate, so to speak. And I think that kind of thought process still works today. Take the simple things that are available, the low hanging fruit, and do them and get them done so that you're inching closer to the finish line and it will seem less daunting, I think.
Perfect. And Vince, just for history's sake, because you're newer, Mark, when this was brought up before, Mark volunteered to do this and it was like running through chainsaws. Okay, so just to give you some specific direction, easiest achievement, low hanging fruit, these housekeeping items, we'll just put those through resolution to keep cleaning up the document. And as we get to the stickier stuff, we'll challenge those, but not hold up everything else because of those. Is that fair?
Yes, very fair.
Oh, and that's okay in your workflow?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, whatever the process is, it's good. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I know we talked about this last time that we were talking about the ethics ordinance, the creation of an ethics commission, and the question was asked whether a commission or whether an individual person could take that role. And the idea is the Attorney General strongly recommended the creation of ethics commission to conduct the investigation and hearings and so forth. And why that would be necessary for us would be to avoid any conflicts of interest with the state's attorney's office. State's attorney's office in certain situations would need to are the attorney for the employee. So if they are also the attorney for the employee and also investigating that same person, it would create a.
Give me an example, if I can, sorry for stepping on your toes, of what that ethics commission looks like. Is that employees? Is that elected commissioners? Is that outside people that you're inviting to a commit? What's that taste like? What's that look like?
There's no specific in the Attorney General model that indicates one way or another. That would be a policy decision, but it would be similar to how you would have, I would assume, the ethics advisor, someone outside that would come in and fill in that role. But if you choose not to do that and do it internally, that I don't see anything that is barring that from happening either.
If you could make a note to maybe put together a couple of models that you think that we can evaluate and have conversations with, that would be, I think that would be helpful for it. don't leave it to, we might know what we don't want, but we might not know what we want.
Sure.
So if you can give us a couple of, blueberry pancakes, chocolate chip pancake, whatever. Give us a couple of things.
Will do.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
And then the last is updates in the law regarding ownership interest in gambling and cannabis. These are new statutes that one, I believe, just came into effect this year. So those should really be updated in the ethics ordinance. And then the sexual harassment allegations, that would need to be reviewed whether that should be put in the ethics ordinance or a separate ordinance or resolution by itself. But there is a state statute that does require that either by ordinance or resolution that new law or that law be passed by ordinance or resolution within the county. So those are the general scope of the ethics ordinance. The low hanging fruit would probably be the new addition of the ownership interest in gambling and cannabis. Those are pretty straightforward, and they are new statutes that we can easily add to the ethics ordinance.
Okay, Mo, help me out here. Is this scope that you see on screen going to satisfy what you originally intended a little while back?
Yeah, well, yeah, thank you. I cannot read this is on my screen. This is so tiny. So you have to give me some
I will
time.
email it out to you today.
Okay,
But Vincent, I guess what my point here is, don't assume that this is the end all of this list. Dr. Iqbal had some very specific items he wanted addressed that we should look at. But again, I think that if we try and jam too much stuff in the funnel, it's just gonna clog. You know what I mean? So let's just keep this going.
so just
Go ahead.
just a quick comment on this one. I think we are going in the right directions. The statute is such that we really cannot change it. We have to follow it. That's the ethics ordinance, as I see. So let's formulate the ethic ordinance in light of what the state tells us to do. The house keeping items are separate. I think we can put them separately. There's another item which is not included in ethics is the lobbying act.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, the lobbying is, I was told that the lobbying act should be kept separate, not made part of ethics because it stands on its own. So there will be two parts.
Who told you that? So I'm not stepping on someone's toes.
Joe,
Anzik? No.
no,
Joe
not
Lolvis.
the previous.
Joe Lolvis.
Joe Lolvis, yes.
All right, Vincent, if you can add to your list the lobbying act.
And he has
And get that up
actually,
onto this document, that would be great.
Will do.
Okay,
actually, we have worked on it and it's fully in the final shape. At least it was at that time.
okay, perfect. All right, Anita, any comments on this or direction?
No, I think it's going the right way.
Deb,
We're good, thank you.
Mavis? Mark?
Quick question. We don't have to get too far into it, regarding that ethics commission issue. Are you looking at that in lieu of an ethics advisor or in addition to?
We'll let Vince bring us a couple of different models and then he'll give us the pros and cons of each and go
okay.
from there. I don't think we have an answer yet.
It would be an
All right.
addition, but I can give you different examples.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Mike? Good, got it.
Yeah, you've eaten up Caius's meeting, so.
Madam Chair?
proceed.
Okay, perfect. Vincent?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Bates?
one more comment. I do picture the commission, the Ethics Commission being from outside of, from being outsiders.
Okay.
Being outsiders.
I'll make sure I include that in an example.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. I know this one's going to be a heavy lift as well, but we're going to try. Mark, well, I promise you, we're trying to do it the right way this time. So
Thank you.
great. And Vincent, again, welcome to the team and thank you so much. Yes. Blair has a quick announcement, and then the rest of this stuff we're going to move through pretty quick. Sorry, Chris.
Okay, everybody, I just was informed that we have power outages all over the county. So there is the slim possibility that the power in this building could go out. It is connected with the generator, but for those online, if suddenly we disappear, it is probably just a power outage. If we have to reconvene ourselves digitally, it will continue to be the same connection. You can stay connected and just be patient for us as everything gets going again. Thank you, everybody. And you can go ahead with the meeting again.
Thanks, Blair. Could I have a motion for resolution for the Juneteenth holiday? Again, another housekeeping issue. Jamie, do you need any? Because I just heard Kenyon move that and
I can
Bates
answer
second.
questions if anyone has any, but it's pretty straightforward. Both the federal and state have indicated it is a holiday, and we're just going to continue to do the same. And the chief judge has added it to their calendar as well.
Perfect. Mr. Kenyon, do I have a motion on that? Ms. Bates is a second.
So happy.
Any conversation? Please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen,
Bates,
Bates, aye.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
passes.
Thank you. The resolution authorizing the Blue Cross Blue Shield as Kane County's group health benefit provider for 2022. Just as a reminder, we did not go and shop the entire package. This was the year where we're moving from the 12-month package to the 18-month package to make sure that we get in alignment with the rest of the world. But we did take a look at all the supplemental ones. Jamie, am I fundamentally correct in that?
Yes, you're correct. I have an entire presentation from Assured Partners from our broker that we can pull up that kind of shows all of our insurance analysis. If the committee would like.
If I can summarize for you for the sake of time, we had negligible, almost zero increase from the provider. We are taking a 6 to 7% recommended increase because of our own internal losses. It's not the provider saying your insurance is costing more. We are self-insured and our losses are up 6 to 7% year over year. Am I fundamentally, remotely correct in that?
Yes, there's only a very small negligible change in fees associated with administering the health insurance. It's a slight increase, but it's minimal. Nothing compared to the full balance of our insurance fund.
Got it. Perfect. Mr. Kenyon, do I see a motion there?
Would be.
Davis, second.
Ms. Bates, any conversation? Blair, we have mics, good. And seeing no conversation, call the roll, please.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Bates, Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon, Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
passes.
Resolution authorizing contracts providing 2022 dental, vision, and life insurance plans. Jamie, want to bring us up to speed on that one?
We have received a no increase, a flat change for next year for these, all of these, and it is believed to be in the best interest of our employees to remain consistent and continue these plans under the same terms and costs as 2021.
The only thing better than that is if these costs went down, and in this day and age, I don't see that. So holding flat is a huge win. I compliment Mike and his entire team and Jamie for working hand in hand with them.
Yeah, I will say it did initially come back. They were all increases, and Assured Partners was able to negotiate those as a no change.
And just a reminder, Assured Partners is the new brand for the roll-up that occurred of Mike's company, which was,
Group Alternatives.
there we go. So Group Alternatives is same people, same phone number, but they have rolled up into a larger company, which is of benefit to us, but it's no longer this, it is now that. So, okay. Mr. Kenyon, do I have that motion as well?
Allen moves.
Alan moves, Kenyon seconds. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Bates,
Bates, aye.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Passes.
I guess all that feedback was my microphone. I'm so sorry. Blair,
Is that one off?
this one's off. It's going to be for the next meeting as well, though, so. Okay, item D. No problem. Approving the 2022 monthly health and dental contributions. Mr. Kenyon, Ms. Bates seconds. Any discussion? We're freezing a second. Blair, how about we go back to the other mic? Okay. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Perfect. Okay, seeing no discussion on that, please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates, Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
passes.
Resolution, item E, canceling the 2021 annual employee wellness biometric screening due to COVID-19. This is just a continuation of what we did last year. We don't believe bringing people in is the appropriate step. Mr. Kenyon moves, Ms. Bates second. Any conversation? Please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates, Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
passes.
Okay, our final item F is authorizing the addition of the telecommuting program policy to the Kane County Personal Policy Handbook. Jamie, why don't you just give us a quick overview on that? And
With COVID, this is something that's been requested by the departments to have some guidance in approving telecommuting programs. So this provides them with a set of guidelines as well as a form for making those requests so that we can keep on file who has such a program in place and the hours associated with those.
is it an omnibus program? Is it an omnibus policy? The one policy sits over all departments, or does each department get to make their own policy?
So it's a policy that applies to all departments, and then whether or not an arrangement is approved for a given employee would be a department decision. So it would still be controlled within departments whether or not an employee was put on a telecommuting agreement, but these guidelines would apply to all departments.
Okay, and we might suggest that somebody who might be in the IT department who's on call 24/7 might have different needs than somebody that's in the transportation department that is, doesn't need to be on call. That's kind of some of the stuff we were addressing. Is that?
Right. And this is more for people whose regular workstation would be at home rather than the situation of IT employees who are on call. But rather for employees who have regularly scheduled hours to work from home or are often telecommuting on an intermittent basis.
Is this us pushing information to the departments, or have departments been allowed to, have they had a voice in this as well?
Not I mean, the state's attorney reviewed it. We wrote it. The state's attorney reviewed it. I don't believe it's been sent. I believe it was sent to department heads early on, but not in its final form, just for feedback.
Okay,
So some thoughts were taken into consideration when doing it. IT did review it as well.
okay,
So we have done some research on it and the state's attorney has vetted it.
perfect. Okay, I'm looking for a motion there, Ms. Bates. Mr. Kenyon seconds. Any conversation? Call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates,
Bates, aye.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
passes.
Jamie, I might ask that we send this out to the department heads prior to this going to finance or exec,
Okay.
just to
Yes,
make sure that
certainly
there's
can
no
send that out.
bumps in the road on this one.
Okay, we can do
Okay,
that.
I surely appreciate that. Can I have a motion to place files on report? Deb,
Allen moves.
Lewis,
Yes.
second. Any conversation on reports? Call the roll there.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates,
Bates, aye.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
passes.
No need for executive session. Before we adjourn, it's, I just thought that was cute that we were talking and Madam Chair just came running right into our committee.
Unfair.
I haven't had that yet, so. Okay, and Mr. Caios, thank you again for being a gentleman earlier. Mr. Kenyon,
Adjourn and-
motions to
and
adjourn.
Apologize to Mr. Caius and his committee for
Miss-
making them late.
Ms. Bates seconds. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.